I crossed the street for the first time all by myself. First of all, this composition is about how I crossed the street for the first time, which was when I was around 5 years old, which was 4 years ago when I was a kid. First of all, when I was around 5, every time I even just lightly put my foot down in the gutter for a second, my mother would say, Jules, you go off the sidewalk and you're going to get it. That means when I'm going to get it, it means I'm going to get hit. When my mother says like that, Jules, you're going to get it, she says it like this, Jules, with the Wolves part louder. And it could fool you, her voice. I mean, because you'd think it was the loudest voice in the whole world, when really it's not loud, it's the way she says it's scary and sharp. Now I'll tell you about the part when I crossed the street for the first time by myself. When I was around that age, a lot of times, and even now, I'll hear a word for the first time. Like yesterday, I heard this word drainage, and when I heard it, I was in Jack's having a chocolate malt, and I was looking over at the Boston cream pie that they got covered up with a plastic cover. And now, every time I hear that word, I get this picture in my mind of this Boston cream pie with a plastic cover over it. They got nothing to do with each other. Boston cream pie and this word drainage. But the thing is, that's how it works out. I get this picture in my mind. One time, when I was 5, I learned 6 new words right in front of a big green garage on Bedford Avenue. Well, these were extremely used-a-lot words, and I kept getting this picture in my mind of this garage, the green one. So the thing is, I told my mother about it because I thought it was a pretty interesting thing, and she didn't listen. And the thing was, I started to cry because she wasn't paying any attention. I cry easy. Not anymore. I mean, when I was 5. Well, boy, she got annoyed about me crying because of nothing, so I just kept right up this crying for her 5 minutes around and telling her about this garage thing again, and then she got real angry and she said this thing. She said, stop crying. You look ugly when you cry like a little rat. The thing is, when you get right down to it, I wasn't a very good-looking kid at that time. My brother is the kind of kid you get excited about, Jerry. My brother, he was 3 when I was 5. I mean, he really knocks your eye out. My grandmother, every time she saw him, she'd have a fit right there on the street, and she kept saying Shana Yingle, which is Jewish words for a really good-looking kid. Right on the street. The thing is, I didn't even know what a rat was at that time, being young like I was. So I asked Lester, who was always breaking his arm. This boy, Lester, he was about 10 years old, and he was always breaking his ankle or his wrist or his arm. He roller skated a lot, and I think that's how it always happened with him running into a truck. So I came up to Lester, and his arm was in a cast from his hand up past his elbow, and I wanted to speak to him personal. So I waited till a time when there was not a lot of kids around, which is not extremely often, because he has a lot of friends. I don't have friends much, especially not that kind at that time, not like that put their arms around your shoulders when you walk down the street. Sometimes kids would want to do like that with me, but I cut it out because I knew they didn't really mean it, because the thing was I cried a lot at that time, and they heard me, I'm pretty sure, because we were all together living in the same apartment house. So I went up to Lester, and all his friends, what could write, they had wrote with an ink pen their names on the dirty white cast, friends all the way up to his elbow. I said to Lester, what is a rat, Lester? So he said to me, Jules, a rat is like Mickey Mouse, only different. So I said, like Mickey Mouse, only different. Well, how much different is that, Lester? So he said, okay, I'll show you. So he took me down to the basement of his house where he lived. And there was this little hole in the wall near the floor, and we sat there in the dark for a long time. And then this little thing came out. And Lester said, Jules, that's a rat. It made me cry extremely to see what it was, a rat. Next morning, I was just standing there on a street by myself, and I got this terrible feeling to do something because Lester broke his arm and knew things, and the other kids, they climbed, and one kid could sound like different kinds of birds, and my mother told me that when I was little, all the babies said bye-bye in the carriages and did tricks, and I didn't do anything. She said, I just sat in the carriage and stared. But when I was 5, all the kids my age, none of them were allowed to cross the street themselves without anybody. They had to go over to a man and say, Mister, will you cross me? So it came to me, I should cross the street. And not just a thin little street, but an extremely big street, like on the corner, Flatbush Avenue. So then I heard my mother from upstairs in the apartment. She started to call Jules, lunch, Jules, Jules, and I started for the corner. And she kept calling Jules like I told you she does. When I got to the corner now, I was very scared because of all the cars and the trucks and all the trolleys and everything was very big and moving. And the other side of the avenue, it looked so far away. My apartment house was pretty far away down the block, but I could still hear my mother with the corner of my ear. Jules, Jules. And then she stopped going like that, and I figured she must be coming to get me. So I had to cross them because I had to. So 2 fists I made, and I closed my eyes shut tight till it hurt a little in my head. And then I bent my head over and I ran. Didn't feel good while I was running because it was like a coward. And with my head all bent down scared, it was all twitchy and small, like thing that come out of the hole in Lester's basement. And I knew I was on the other side of the curb because all of a sudden I tripped over the curb. I opened my eyes up, I looked across Flatbush where I ran from, and across Flatbush and down my block I could see my mother coming out of our apartment house. And I felt bad because she didn't see me cross from myself. So then she started to come where I was, and she was too far away from me to see her face good, but just by the way she was walking, I knew she was angry. And I was going to get it. It was really a good time to cry. But the thing was, I didn't cry. I just kept thinking that I wanted to cross back to her by myself and show her before she could get across and bring me back. I knew I was going to get it, but I didn't think about that. And I didn't cry, and she was getting close to the corner on the other side, and I had to do it soon. And I could see her face now clear, and she was angry. And she was crying, but the thing was, I wasn't crying. And I came back across the street to her. Not like before. Eyes closed and bent over like the thing from the hole. But I came back slow. Like marching. Like how they march in a parade.